this crazy complex terminology and stuff like that, and it can make it very intimidating. It almost makes you think that, it almost makes you feel like you have to go to medical school or something, and it's not like that. I mean, money really is not something that is overly complicated. A lot of financial principles, believe it or not, were things that your grandma used to tell you when you were little. For example, diversification just means not putting all your eggs in one basket. It means spreading your money out, spreading your resources out, so that if one thing goes bad, something else will go good, and you'll still be okay. That's diversification. The relationship between risk and return, risk and reward, is something we've always known our whole lives. We use terms like nothing ventured, nothing gained. Well, that's true in investing too. That typically people who take on certain kinds of risk in a smart way. It's got to be smart, calculated risk. But when you take on more risk over time, in the long term, you tend to have a higher reward. That's why, for example, somebody might say, hey, we want you to invest in this thing, but it's got a 50-50 chance, so it's very risky. But if it works out, you're gonna be rich. You're gonna have a lot of money. That's very different from a safe investment where the return is gonna be lower because the risk is typically lower. It depends. Sometimes it varies, but that's kind of the general idea. Over time, basically, my goal is to kind of help you not be afraid of these concepts. That's the first thing. So financial literacy, basic financial literacy, how money works, how money empowers you, how you don't want to give your money away, things like that. That's that first step. Secondly, I want you to teach these things to your kids. That's why I created the Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program. I'll give you the URL here in case you're interested in it. The Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program is very simple. It's basically a series of financial literacy classes for kids that I designed specifically for black children. Because here's what I figured out. I started thinking about this because I'm big on aerospace and NASA and all that. I love watching documentaries about NASA because the man, man's and woman's, when I say man's, I'm talking about all of us. Man's quest to colonize Mars or to explore deep space is very similar to the black community's quest to achieve economic power, to compete in the global economic system. It requires a lot of teamwork. It requires a lot of determination. It requires a tremendous amount of skill, etc. Down all the way down the line. It requires innovation, just innovation like crazy. And so I was thinking about this because I saw this documentary where they were talking about Mars and the next generation and how they're going to get people to Mars, how they're going to keep them alive on Mars, and then also how they're actually going to do what they call terraforming Mars, which is where they're actually going to try to take this dead planet, this planet that has no life, that no ability to sustain life, and turn it into another Earth by basically doing some things with the chemical compounds and creating basically an atmosphere for Mars so that humans can actually breathe on Mars. And they were saying, well, this plan, is going to take about 100 to 150 years. At first, we thought it would take 500 years, but we innovated and they figured out how they could do it in 150 years. And they've got people, like serious people, smart people, working around the clock figuring out how are we going to terraform Mars in the next 150 years. So clearly, none of these people are going to be alive when Mars is actually a livable place. But they're seeing this vision that's way off in the future and they're planting seeds today so that there will be better days in the future. So with the black community, the Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program, that's what it's set up for, is to basically say, and I didn't put the .com on the URL, so you can just copy and paste it in. But basically, this is designed to say, how do we go ahead and terraform our community? How do we go ahead and plant the seeds today so that in a generation or two, our children or our children's children will be in a far better economic situation than we are. They'll have a different kind of culture when it comes to wealth. People in the year 2116, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm not really thinking about 2016, to be honest with you. The only extent to which I'm thinking about 2016 is to the extent that I can do something that will impact 2116. So in 2116, are we going to have a culture where people are saying, oh my gosh, those African Americans, they're always talking about wealth building. They're always starting these businesses and all their kids are entrepreneurs and if you go to a bank, it's probably owned by a black person. If you want to get money, you have to go to black people to get money. Like, I really want to see that, and I know that that's possible. But in order to do that, we have to plant seeds where our children, from the very beginning, literally, I'm talking about in terms of how they're indoctrinated into life, have to be instilled with a certain set of very simple fundamental principles that basically say little things like having a boss is optional. In fact, it's the last resort. You should try your best to go through life without ever having to have a boss, because you'll have a better life and you'll have more power over your destiny, more control over your life. Number two, You want to think like an investor. So that means that you basically want to have your money going into things that are going to grow in value over time. You don't want to be a consumer and a borrower and a spender. In fact, I created an acronym in the Millionaires of Tomorrow program. It's millionairesoftomorrow.com in case you want the URL. And the acronym was Poise. I have to write it down because I literally came up with this week just for the kids. I try to formulate these theories and these ideas that'll make it easier for people to absorb the information. And so what was it? Poise is it stands for producer, owner, investor, saver. That's it. And so I tell the kids, keep your poise. POIS. POIS. Producer, owner, investor, saver. Now, parents can gain from this too. So this isn't just for the kids. Because so don't feel ashamed if you're looking at the material and you're learning along with your child. Because these are actually concepts that are simple, but most Americans don't know these concepts because they don't teach financial literacy to the general public. They do not want the general public to be financially literate because it would undermine the economic system. You don't want all your citizens keeping their money. You can't have a society like that. So my thinking is, if we have our pocket of American society where we've got a certain set of principles that allow us to keep our wealth in our pocket, kind of what the Jews do, to be honest with you, then that's not going to cause any significant alarm because we're just a segment of society. Everybody else can waste their money, but they'll be wasting their money by giving it to us and giving it to our businesses. So when I tell the kids, keep your poise, POIS. The P stands for producer. You want to be a producer, not just a consumer. Consumers are people who buy things and get stuff at the store. They go to the mall and they spend money at Christmas and all this other stuff. It's fine to consume at some point. Everybody does. But you also want to be a producer because a producer is a person who puts something out there and people buy it. And they're bringing money in for their families and stuff like that. They don't have to sort of just replenish their financial stock by constantly going to work and utilizing their human capital. Human capital is your body and yourself and your time and all these other things that you're giving away in order to get ahead financially. O stands for ownership. Everybody has to own something. Every child. So if you got a child at home, think to yourself, what can my child own by this Christmas? What can they own by New Year's? Maybe I'll buy them one share of stock. That's it. Just go to Ameritrade. Here you go. Here you go, little Pookie. Look, come here. I want you to see your share of Adidas or your share of whatever you decide to buy. And then you talk about it. Maybe let them watch a couple of the videos in the Black Business School that we provide to you guys. Bring your child along in your journey. Don't just take in the information and don't share it. Make sure your child hears these things. In fact, I have parents that actually bring their children into the Black Wealth Boot Camp, and I think that's a great idea. Rashida Range is one person who just sent me this amazing video of her son reciting the principles that he learned in the Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program, and that's exactly what I want to see. Next, I stands for investor. An investor is somebody who accumulates resources, maybe through saving or whatever, and they're always looking for a place to put their money so their money can work for them. A lot of people think that when I talk about black people being business owners, that I'm saying every black person should be an entrepreneur. No, I'm not saying that. And believe me, I get so much pushback from just brainwashed Negroes who really think that black people can't do anything more than work for other people. I hate that. It makes me mad. I really consider people who think that way to be enemies of the black community. And so what I'm actually saying is not that every black person has to be an entrepreneur. We know that would be difficult. But every black person can own something. You can always invest in another entrepreneur. And so what I'm always looking for when I'm thinking like an investor, and it takes time, you literally almost have to brainwash yourself into thinking a certain way. It's almost like positive thinking. When you're constantly forcing yourself to have positive thoughts, what you're doing is you're formulating new habits so that the rest of your brain function, that 95% of your subconscious that controls most of what you do, is absorbing certain messages that will make you into the person that you want to be, creating habits that'll get you to where you want to be. So I had to practice thinking like an investor, not like an employee. And this was after I had a PhD in finance. And I'm not kidding. So thinking like an investor, what that means is this. I look and I say, okay, I've got so many thousands of dollars in the bank that I'm looking to find something to do with. Where can I put my money? So people reach out to me and they say, hey, Dr. B, can you give me money, or can you help me with this or help me with that? And I'm always thinking, okay, what can this person do? What can I work on with this person where I can be the funder of the project and I don't actually have to do the work because I'm too busy. I got stuff going on. But I can be the funder. Maybe I can be a person who helps with the marketing or whatever, or and also expertise. For example, I'll give you an example. There's a brother who a professor, Dr. Roosevelt Mitchell III, who created a series of children's books called Caden is Different. And Caden is a black child with a disability, and it's all about what Caden goes through at school to kind of make children sensitive to disabilities, and just kind of what what just what our kids go through, but also making sure our kids don't bully kids that have disabilities, because I think he had a disability as a child, and I think that that's why he created this product. And now he's a great educator. He was actually teacher of the year in his school. So I talked to Dr. Mitchell, and Dr. Mitchell was trying to get off the plantation. We explored some ideas, and so he started doing Your Black World News for us, and because I was really impressed with his ambition. I'm always impressed with black people who invest heavily in themselves. I just think that, to me, is the first sign that you're going to be a successful person. When I see somebody whose first inclination is to invest in their future as opposed to wait for somebody to give them a paycheck, that tells me right there, okay, this person has potential because they already understand how this thing works, how this wealth building thing works. So we talked about it. And I said, you know what, man? I said, this is a great idea. I think a lot of parents would actually like something like this for their kids. I said, so maybe I can be a co-investor in your project, because I asked him, I said, how many of these books are you selling? How's it going? And he said, oh, I'm selling a few and stuff like that. I said, okay, how about this? I can be an investor. I can be a distributor of your product. I can, now I can't make the people that are part of our network, I can't make them buy anything. They're not going to buy it just because I say it. I have to make sure it's a good product, it's quality, that it's ethical, all these other things, that it fits the interests of the community. But I can at least ask them. And then I said, well, how about also, why don't we take Caden, and maybe we can reshape the brand a little bit. Maybe instead of just doing, having the book focus on the disability, why don't we make the disability part of who he is, but not the entirety of who he is? So we can have, for example, Caden learns about money. So we talked about that, and he said that's a great idea. I said, yeah, we could have Caden learn basic business principles. So Caden learns how to build his wealth, how he learns how to save, he learns how to start a business, and other children can learn about money by watching Caden learn about money, and it can apply to a lot of different topics, not just money. And so we talked about that, and we formed a partnership. We created a contract, and I said, okay, we're now partners, and now everybody wins. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, here's the boat that many of us as black people are in. All of us, not all of us, I say the majority of us, including myself included. All of us are in a situation where we need cooperative economics in order to allow ourselves to get out of a position in which we're forced to go beg white people for money. That's just a fundamental fact. I was talking to a brother this morning who's a filmmaker. He made the film Black Friday. His name's Rick Mathis. It was a great film, and I loved it. And we were talking about distribution deals. I helped them with the distribution of the film because they're better at making films than we are. So our new film is really good, but their film is great. I love what they do. So we made a deal, and we were laughing about it. And he said, yeah, man, it's great to work with a brother who wants to support instead of compete and stuff like that. I said, you know what? We have to support each other because we're all in the same boat. We're all sort of finding ways to work together so that all of us, and I was talking particularly about black men because black men have the highest unemployment rate in this society. I said, me as a black man, you as a black man, we have to elevate and support each other so that we can give each other the esteem and the strength and the kingsmanship that white America won't give us, because our women want us to be kings. They want to be able to look at that man who's the head of their household and say, my man is on top. My man is a king. He's a boss. He's a baller, whatever it is, and so not a baller. I know that has negative terminology, so throw that one out. I'm not trying to be a baller. I'm trying to be a man, right? So I said, look, so we have to support each other. So look, if you think about it, as a scholar, when I was working around racist white folks, I wasn't getting rewarded for my hard work. I was achieving a lot, but they were not acknowledging that. So if I were trapped in a way of thinking that said that I need this institution to validate me for me to feel successful, I would always feel like I was a loser. I would always feel like something was wrong with me, that me being too black was a liability as opposed to an asset. And so for him, I said, look, you as a filmmaker, if you were stuck taking your talent and going to Hollywood, begging Paramount Pictures and Universal Studios to give you an opportunity, they probably wouldn't have given you the funding you deserve. They probably wouldn't have given you, jobs to work on the films that you deserve to be on. They probably wouldn't give you the opportunity to actually direct the film at the very top. You'd be a producer or something like that. And so ultimately, by us coming together as a community, you're able to receive the status that you deserve by being a successful filmmaker. I get to be a successful scholar, and then we get to breed and bring along young people and make them successful as well. So what's happening happening is you're creating your own context of success. You're not playing somebody else's game where the field is slanted in their direction and you always end up the loser. You're literally creating a whole new game for yourself. And the thing is, when children grow up in that environment, when they grow up in a world where they just see that their mother is a respected entrepreneur and that everyone looks up to their mother, or that their father is a leader in a certain area, they're not really thinking about how white folks might perceive their parents. They're looking at how the world around them perceives their parents. And so we want to create these incubative spaces. We want to ultimately, to use that Mars analogy, and this is really something that's coming off the top of my head. Sometimes this happens, and I just do this, and I hope this is okay and helpful to you. But we're literally trying to terraform our community. We're taking, just like the NASA astronauts are trying to take Mars, this dead planet that looks like it can't sustain life, and make it into something that not only sustains life but even creates life. We're doing that with our community. We're taking this section of America that some people think is dead economically and otherwise, that people think that nothing can be good can be done with it, and we are terraforming it and creating prosperity where none existed before. In fact, I started talking to an investor recently this week, a co-investor, about creating a tech incubator space, a tech incubator slash workspace. And I said, you know what? All these incubator spaces where people come and work on their little projects and develop their small businesses, they're all on the white side of town, the wealthy side of town. I said, let's put it in the south side of Chicago, so that all these brilliant young entrepreneurs, brilliant young techies, they don't have to go to Starbucks or wherever in order to work. They can come together with other like-minded people and create their own space and their own prosperity. And when you're working together in those environments, you breed ideas. It's just like how if you pull men and women together in the club, you're gonna breed babies. People gonna go home and they're gonna make babies. You put a bunch of rabbits in a pen, they're gonna make babies. It's gonna happen. Well, if you put a lot of brilliant people in the same space, the babies that come out will be businesses. It will be prosperity. So that's how you build an economy. That's how you terraform your community and build something better, something that wasn't there in the first place. Now let me go through and look at some of your comments and your hellos. And I literally got on here not planning on even starting with that, but I don't know. I just started feeling that. I just wanted to share that with you. Okay, so Shaquita says, "Happy holidays." How you doing, Shaquita? Good to see you. Janine says, "Isn't it unethical not to consider the displaced aliens?" Are you talking about Mars? Girl, please. Okay, anyway, Mars ain't got no people on it. Okay, I think she's trying to be funny. Asafa says, "Can you tell us the URL for the OneShare website you mentioned before?" Yeah, I think that there's a site. I think one of the little share sites was gone, but I think that there's another one I found called giveashare.com, where you can buy one share stock for your child. Yeah, it's giveashare.com. So I'm gonna put this URL in here so that you guys can have it. Buy your child something like that for Christmas, or maybe, I don't know, a savings bond, an investment toy, or something. You give them something that's going to last, something that's going to change them. I still remember my grandma buying me those savings bonds when I was little, and that was my first introduction to compound interest. Before that, I did not know what it was. I never would have learned, or I wouldn't have learned probably until I was an adult, but I learned that at the age of 6, because I literally remember looking at this bond and saying, okay, it says it's worth $100, but you're telling me I can't use it right now for $100 and it costs you 50, and I didn't understand that. So little things like that make a huge difference. God rest my grandma. Love her so much. All right, Brian Matthews, "Is now the right time to invest in crude oil?" You know what, I don't think that when it comes to investing, I don't think you should look at it in terms of the right time. Timing investments is a very bad kind of thing to get into. It's something that's like very hit or miss. Now, if you want, you could consider maybe the value investing strategy used by guys like Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett tends to buy a lot of things when there's like a recession, because when there's a recession, liquidity is lower. Liquidity means companies have a lack of cash, just like your body has a lack of water. Well, cash is like water in the body of a company. So in fact, as you build your small businesses, you have to watch out for liquidity problems, because investment and growth and expansion requires money. So if you don't have a good source of money, you have to be really, really careful about that. So when liquidity is low, Warren Buffett likes to buy, because he holds his cash, thinking like an investor. He holds his cash and looks for good investment opportunities where he can come in like Superman, save the day, and throw a little money on it and make the company valuable again. So it's almost like if you've got a relative, let's say you got a relative who is a really great graphic artist, and you want to hire your cousin to be your graphic artist, and you say, how much will you charge me to do a logo for my company? And your cousin says, well, since I'm really busy and this company over here is paying me so much money, I have to charge you $300 to do a logo because I'm really busy and I'm really good and it's really hard for me to make the time to do it. So you might say, okay, you know what, thank you, I appreciate that information. When the time's right, maybe I'll come to you. So let's say you find out later that your cousin loses his job, and so suddenly your cousin isn't balling anymore per se. They don't have as much money coming in. So they're trying to figure out how to pay the rent. Well, guess what? If you go back to that cousin and you say, "Hey, can we make a deal on that logo? I know you said 300. That's a lot. All I got is 100." Well, they might say, "Well, okay, we know since money's tight, I'll do it for 150." You follow me? So ultimately, what's happened is a liquidity problem has opened a door for you to come in with liquidity and to get something for a price you couldn't have gotten it before. The same thing applies to investing. That's what Warren Buffett does. Warren Buffett looks for companies when they're down and out, when they're having a temporary problem. Now, it can't be a permanent problem, right? It can't be something permanent, like if your cousin loses his graphic design job because he became a drug addict and he's on his way to prison, so he may not even be able to finish the work. Then that's a different situation. That's more long term. That's more permanent. So you may not necessarily want to make that investment at that time. But if he's just between jobs and he's going to get back on his feet, then that means his value has remained the same. It's just that his market value has taken a dip. So corporations, what Warren Buffett and people like that look for is they look for the difference between what they call intrinsic value, which is the true value of the company, and market value, which may be low. So companies may be what they call undervalued. It's no different from going to the mall and looking for an outfit that's on sale. You say, this is a $200 dress and I can get it for $80. Well, it's still a $200 dress in your mind, right? You just get to pay $80 for it, whereas 2 weeks later you might have to pay the full 200. So a lot of times some people invest that way, what they call value investing. The market takes a dive because everybody panics, so some people go in there, they start buying. And I tend to do that sometimes too. When the market goes down, I'm far more likely to buy than if the market went up. However, the best approach for investing in your portfolio is just buy consistently. Just take a little bit of money. In fact, I did a calculation in one of the classes in the Black Business School. I hope you'll go take a look at some of the classes in the Black Business School if you haven't. They're really, really good. But in one of the classes, I actually did a calculation. I called it the $500,000 Happy Meal, where I basically showed that if you take the money that you would normally spend on a Happy Meal and you took that money every day and invested in the stock market instead of going to McDonald's, you would literally have over $500,000 in your investment account by the time you retired. Now, that's not money that's going to be, you can't flip that overnight, but if you just do that investment consistently, just a few dollars every month, maybe $150, $200 a month, you'd be amazed at how much that money can grow. That's what we call the magic of compound interest. Okay, so let's see here. Steve says, good evening, Dr. Boyce. How you doing, Steven? Good to see you, Rodelson. Glad you're here. Rodelson says, in your opinion, what kinds of business software is essential and necessary to start a small business, such as Shopify, QuickBooks, or ones you cannot avoid? You know what, Rodelson? My brother Lawrence, he's the CEO of GreatBlackSpeakers.com, which is the largest black-owned speakers bureau in the country. He came in as a guest in the boot camp, and he made a list of investments that you can make, or things that you can get that will get your small business off the ground. That list is in the boot camp if you have access to the boot camp group. If you don't, if you're in the academy, then I can just email me and I can put that in with the academy content. But a few things that come to mind. His list had 25 things on it, but a few things that come to my mind are, I think Shopify works if you're trying to do e-commerce. If you're trying to sell things online, you probably want to have a Shopify account. I think that's a good idea. QuickBooks works. My accountant uses QuickBooks to keep up with my money because she can generate easy reports. I would say that in terms of what software you would need for the business, I kind of take it piece by piece, in the sense that I try to start out with as little as possible. Literally, I mean, if I start something new, I might create a Facebook page for it, because you can do that for free. Maybe a Twitter account, maybe an Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, a YouTube channel, possibly, if it's something I can promote via video. And those things are all free. Then, in terms of which software I add, it really comes down to a need to add basis. What a big mistake I would say is to buy a whole bunch of stuff before you know if you're gonna need it. I don't think that's a good idea. The only time I would buy a whole bunch of stuff is if I was taking a class where someone was specifically showing me how to create a specific kind of business, and then you can see exactly why everything is needed. Because if you're not careful, you can end up buying a bunch of stuff you don't need. Like back in the day, 10 years ago, when I first got online, I started buying a lot of URLs. Like, oh yeah, I could use this one. Oh, I could use that one. I could use that one. And I ended up throwing away 100 different URLs because I didn't end up using them. I found that a URL or a website is like a piece of land, a piece of land that you farm. If you farm it hard, you can get a big harvest from that land. But if you don't farm it consistently, it's not going to grow. So a website that you build that doesn't have any action to it, any marketing to it, any flow of traffic that you're sending to it, that you're paying to send to it, then it's not usually going to grow. So I would almost think of it also in terms of getting the kind of experts that you need. So, for example, if you're trying to do Facebook ads, I think it might be good to go look for a Facebook advertising expert. I don't know if I'd recommend trying to do that myself. Let's see, in terms of software, I know I use WordPress for our blogs. We have tech people that manage our WordPress blogs, so we use companies like Black Web Solutions. That I'll give you the email address for them that we use, Black Web Solutions. And I like their company because I tend to like hiring people that help us to help the bottom line. They help us to make enough money so we can pay all the people that work with us and stuff like that. We have a lot of single parents and stuff, so we do hustle for the money for them, because if that's the pressure of being a CEO. If you don't come up with money, you have to go and have horrible conversations with people, and and fire them. And there's so much devastation in the black community. There's so many people that are on the brink of bankruptcy. So many people that are unemployed, and so on one hand, when you have a business, it's beautiful because you get a chance to help those people. On the other hand, the more people you help, the more people that come to depend on you, and that ends up. Let me turn my phone off. Hold on. Okay, y'all are so hearing my alarm. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. I don't know why this phone was acting so funny. Okay, it's off now. All right, so now I just have like literally the wimpiest little alarm ever, but I love it. It's a great song. I think I picked it because I like the idea of hearing something pleasant when I wake up. Because I used to have an alarm that used to go and that's like scary. Like you don't want to be scared to death, like and pulled out of bed. Kind of messes up your whole day. So I like pleasant sounds like that. It's a good thing. All right. So anyway, so in terms of your software, what I would just generally do is make sure that you kind of add it on piece by piece. So typically, for example, with Black Web Solutions, I work with them because they know how to build a website, build your social media, link your social media to your website so that your traffic will flow. Then they know how to monetize the website by putting the ads on the site in a specific way, not just from AdSense, but also from different networks that they have, about 30 different networks that they connect with, so that if you get traffic, you can monetize that traffic. And then they also can set up your e-commerce if you're selling something. So, because typically websites, the way people make money on websites comes down to advertising or e-commerce. What are you selling, and what ads are you running? And so you kind of want to work with people that kind of know what they're doing, and then add the software as you need it, as opposed to thinking that you need to have some comprehensive package, because one size does not fit all. Okay, let's see here. Steven says, I want to buy a used vehicle next year. Should I buy the vehicle under my business account and register it under my business name if I want to keep it separate from my personal assets? Yes. Yes, you can. And you can definitely. I'm making notes here because that question made me think about something. You definitely can do that, and you definitely would keep it separate from your assets. When you form an LLC, the business is almost like its own entity. People form LLCs to protect their assets. So, like Donald Trump, who actually is a decent businessman. I mean, he's as a presidential candidate, some people might think he's a prick or whatever, but as a business person, he's pretty good. He made even when he had billions of dollars in the bank. When he started businesses, he always created LLCs, and he would always borrow money for the business. So you would think to yourself, well, if you're worth over $1 billion, why would you borrow $200,000 to start a business? Well, it's very simple. It's for limited liability. It's to protect his other assets from the assets of the business, for two reasons. One, in terms of expense and risk. If you borrow money from the bank, you're using their money, not your own money. Number two, if the company goes bad or goes bankrupt, then that's the company going bankrupt, not you going bankrupt. Number three, if someone somebody sues the hell out of the company, they're not also suing the hell out of you. So maybe, so I think, yeah, I think buying a car under the name of the company can work. It's just, but at the same time, credit, there may be credit implications. You may have to actually use your personal credit, or your own guarantee for the car, which would spill over into your own personal assets. Because if a business is new, the business isn't going to have any credit. You don't have any kind of credit history, so you kind of have to deal with that. But I think it's a good idea. If it's something you want to do, go for it. Just be cautious about how you use it and how you write things off. Because if the IRS comes back and audits you, and you're using the car for personal stuff, to drive yourself, to the park or your kids to school, then that can actually cause some implications tax wise. But you could talk to your accountant about that. Your accountant could be a good guide on that kind of thing. Malcolm says, "Good evening, Dr. Boyce. How you doing?" Malcolm, good to see you. In terms of being an investor, do you think it's wise to utilize the stock market as a primary means to create wealth? I think so. I think the stock market is a great place to generate long-term wealth. I would, if you treat the stock market, if you're as devoted to giving money consistently to the stock market as you are to, say, committing or to giving money every week to the club, or committed to giving money every day to Starbucks or McDonald's or wherever you eat lunch, or as committed to giving money consistently as you are to, going shopping, at Christmas time and stuff like that, or whatever it is that you waste money on, going to the movies or whatever. If you're as devoted to investing in the stock market as you are to these other things, then you will have wealth. You will have money. You might not have millions, but you'll have tens of thousands of dollars in just a few years, especially if you have a decent income. I think that the thing that you have to keep in mind as well, though, is when you're talking about building up that big money, that crazy money, that money that's at the absolute highest levels of economic success, understand that some of that's intergenerational. The example that I thought about the other day was I looked at Sam Walton. I did research on Sam Walton and his creation of Walmart. And here you had this little country boy. I don't know how much education he had, but he didn't come off to me as an educated person. But he came off as a very smart person. And he created this little store in 1962 that he wanted to leave for his kids. And he just did a hell of a job at this store, ran it very well, which led him to have the profitability to build another store and another store and another store. And now, to this day, Walmart is worth $188.8 billion on the stock market. All of his children are on the Forbes Richest Americans list. And you're talking about just 50 years later. Just 50 years later. So, my question would be, two things. One, what would have happened if Sam Walton had just said, you know what, I'm really good at business. I'm going to go work for somebody. I'm going to go find somebody that's going to give me a good job and pay me good money. And if he had done that, Walmart wouldn't exist. $200 billion in economic value would not exist to this day. If he'd had a worker mentality. Many black people have a worker mentality. Our first instinct is to go and become a worker for somebody. That's a training. You have to be brainwashed into thinking that way. The second thing I would ask you is this: if we all of us, all 110 of us that are in this class, in this room right now, if all of us went out tomorrow and said, I'm gonna create something small, I'm gonna start some kind of business for my children. I don't care how big it is, but I'm gonna take pride in it and I'm gonna treat it as if it's the most important thing in the world. How many of us would build something that is worth hundreds of millions of dollars in the next 50 years? In the year 2056 or 2066. That's not long. I mean, you're talking about literally, you might be around in the year 2066 if you get to live long enough. If you're young enough, some of us will still be here in the year 2066. That's how little time has passed from the time Sam Walton had this crazy Walmart dream and his children being on the Forbes Richest Americans list. You cannot undervalue the relevance of your seed. You don't know what you're planning, what you're creating, or what your children are going to do with that. Your children will probably take your small business more serious than you take it. You may look at it and say, I only made $5,000 this year, so this isn't really a big deal. But they may look at this as, whoa, this is something I can really turn into something special. You understand? So you got to plant something that's going to grow, for the next generation. And so I think that so I know I deviated from Malcolm's question a little bit, but it does kind of link back. So when you talk about the stock market, one thing that's fundamentally true is that the gap between the rich and the poor is larger than it's ever been. The larger than it's been in 100 years. That gap largely exists because of the stock market. If you look at what's happened to the poor since Obama, but even before Obama, it started before Obama. It was with Bush and Clinton and everything. The poor have kind of gotten worse off in America. Middle class were doing okay until the crash in '08. and then they started declining a little bit because home values started to drop. Most middle class people, their only measuring stick for the American dream is owning a home, and that was because that was sold to you. There's propaganda behind that. They wanted Americans to want to own homes because there were people who wanted real estate values to go up. So they were creating demands for homes by doing that. The area where the economy has done the best, where people have done the best, is in the top, say, 10% of Americans. And that's because the stock market has done this. Since Obama, if you look at when Obama got elected, you look at the black community's economic status. I'm sorry, I hate saying, I'm not trying to hate on anybody who loves the president, but black people have done this under Obama. But people who are in the stock market have done this. And they were doing that under Bush. So what I would argue is that as part of our economic incubation strategy, our economic fortification strategy for the black community, we encourage as many people as possible to get invested in the stock market. And it does not cost a lot of money to buy a share of stock. The barrier for buying in the stock market is up here. It's psychological. It's almost like how you have people in the hood who don't leave their block, not because nobody tells them they can't leave, but because they're afraid of the unknown. Well, the same thing is true when it comes to the way where we put our money and the things that we do with our money. Another thing that I have found is that there's really no better way to make quicker money than to start small businesses. If you think like an investor, you can literally sit down with your friends and have a brainstorming session where five of you just say, let's sit down and we're not going to get up until we come up with 3 business ideas that we can start with the money that we have in the bank. I got 2,000, Shaquita got 2,000, Joe's got 2,000. All right, so we're going to sit down and figure out what can we start for, say, $4,000, because we don't use all of our money, for $4,000 that can turn into a business that generates, say, $2,000 or $3,000 a month within the next 6 months. I guarantee if you sit down and have that brainstorm session, you will come up with business ideas. In fact, that's another idea I'm going to write down because I'm actually going to try to do something like that because I think that's actually a great idea. So y'all gotta forgive me. I'm literally as crazy as I sound when I'm talking. I'm literally this excited, and I'm literally coming up with these things as I'm talking to you. So this is as honest for me as you're ever gonna get. It's easier to be honest when you do stuff like this because then you don't have to keep up with a bunch of lies. Okay, so Carlos is asking for the URL for Black Millionaires of Tomorrow. Well, it's exactly as it sounds. It's blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com, and it is our financial literacy class for children. We have about 100 and something kids that signed up within the first couple of days, and I want there to be a million of them. But the first 100, that's a great start. That's 100 people who are going to influence other people. You see, when you have children, your children are going to probably have more than one child. So what I'm thinking about is I'm thinking about the mathematics of it all and the multiplicative effect, as they call it, as we used to call it when I studied math. That's why I got my master's in. The multiplicative effect says that when you affect one person, you're really affecting everybody that they impact. Right. So if I impact you well enough, if I really, that's another reason why I make sure I come at you with as much passion, honesty, and energy as I can, because I'm trying to affect you. I'm trying to make you walk away and say, okay, I'm thinking differently because I heard this stuff. Because if you're thinking differently, what's going to happen is you're going to start acting differently and talking differently, interacting with people differently. So when you do that, what's going to happen is people are going to see that, especially if you go out and become successful. If you're really successful, they're going to want to emulate that. They're going to learn from you. So I'm not always going to be the teacher. I can't be the only teacher. We can't achieve this goal with me being the only teacher. There must be a natural multiplicative process where all of us go and share a similar set of ideas about black wealth building, the importance of it, etc., so that it spreads, through the entire community. So when you do that with your children, every time I see, give me 1 second, guys. Somebody's banging at my door. Hold on, real quick. Yes. Sorry, that was really weird. Somebody banged on my door, and I have no idea who it is. That was so strange. Sorry about that, guys. It's a little weird. I'm home by myself, so I'm like, okay, is somebody coming to get me? Well, one day, just so you know, just so you know, and I'm dead serious when I say this. Um, you know, it's not inconceivable that when people, hit on certain ideas and have a certain kind of influence, it's not inconceivable that people will want them gone. And there are things I've said in Chicago about the local government officials, things I've said about where black people should do with their money, that probably would be seen as a threat by people. I'm probably on lists from the FBI and stuff like that. I have no doubt about that. My father's in law enforcement. He warned me about that even back when I was in college and writing articles and organizing protests, stuff like that. And so part of the reason that I talk to you guys the way I do and share this information is because I don't really care if something happens to me, because I if I've been able to influence enough people or talk to enough people and share enough stuff and record enough videos and share enough information, this information will be there after I'm gone. Okay, and I thought about this because this week, and this is something everybody should do in this class if you haven't done it. I went and I had my will signed. It's in my bag actually, and I got my will signed again, and I felt a sense of urgency to do it. And everybody was worried. They thought they were like, oh, "Are you dying or something? What's going on?" And I said, "No, I'm not dying. I'm actually living, because I'm making sure that when I'm gone, that everything will continue the way it's supposed to continue." That I specifically, for example, told them, I said, if I'm gone, it's in my will. If I'm gone and I have, videos out there or articles out there that you think young people can benefit from, I want you to allocate a certain percentage of the money I leave to create a fund where you're going to push and market this content so that children can learn from this stuff after I'm not here. And so a couple things I really believe, and this is something I want you to keep in mind as you think about where you stand. You got to ask yourself, if you die tomorrow, are your loved ones going to be where you want them to be? Are they going to be okay financially? They're already going to be, slaughtered emotionally. It's already going to be devastating for them emotionally. But are you going to compound the emotional damage by leaving a set of financial problems? Or are you going to perhaps minimize the emotional damage by making sure that they know that they're financially secure? One of the things I said to my daughter when we went to New York not too long ago is I said to her, you know what, if I die, you'll be really sad, but just know you'll also be really rich. So, so she didn't think that was a funny joke, but I thought it was great because I felt good as a father to know that I put life insurance policies in place, my business is in place, and also my affairs are in order in my will, so that everything will continue to move forward as once I'm gone. But here's the other thing: because of what I do, I really do feel like the children that listen, the young people that listen to me, those are my kids. And so I said, okay, I want to leave something for all my kids. So I have stipulations in my will about what's going to happen to all my digital content, how the business is going to run, who's going to be in charge, how things will happen if I'm gone. And I will tell you this: if you plan properly, if you plant the right seeds in the right way, and you arrange things in the right way, that really is your key to immortality. It's your key to immortality. And I say that because when you've got stuff kind of moving after you're gone, it's really a lot like starting a business. The principles are very much the same. And in fact, when you start your business, that should be your goal. It shouldn't be something where every time you work, you make money. It should be something where you're making money when you're not working, or things are happening when you're not there. You understand? So you should be able to be gone and not do anything and still have things occur, whether it's financial or some other measure of productivity. So obviously, if I'm dead, I'm not really thinking so much about the financial, other than making sure that there's enough money to take care of the people that are going to be left behind. But even beyond that, I'm thinking, who's going to be watching the videos? Who's going to be reading my articles? Who's going to be benefiting from whatever knowledge I share with my community after I'm gone? And if you do it right, you literally can live forever. You're literally here even after you're gone. In fact, Michael Jackson might be a good example of that. I mean, Michael Jackson makes more money. He's made more money dead than I believe. I don't know if he's made more so far than he made in his whole entire life, but his children have benefited hugely financially because all the income is still coming in, even at a higher level than it was when he was alive. But the spending isn't there anymore. Remember, Michael used to spend like 10 million a month just on nonsense. I mean, Michael was a spender, but now the spending's gone, but the income is still there. So many generations are going to benefit from that. So think about that. If you don't have a good life insurance policy in place, go get one right now. They don't cost a whole lot. It's silly not to have one. I'll give you the company I use for life insurance. You can go take a look. It's the blackinsurancenetwork.com. Okay, let me see here. Let me put that down. Okay, blackinsurancenetwork.com. Okay, so that's where I get my life insurance. Also, if you want a will done, you can go to Rocket Lawyer. I do a lot of stuff on Rocket Lawyer because Rocket Lawyer is kind of a great way for small businesses to get the legal help they need without having to spend all that crazy money that lawyers charge. Lawyers, unfortunately, bad lawyers will rob you. They'll drag stuff on just so they can get more fees. So it doesn't mean you don't need your own lawyer, but I think that for many of the documents that lawyers fill out for you, These are things that you can actually do yourself on Rocket Lawyer, and maybe have a lawyer look at them for you. And I'll tell you what happened with a lawyer that I had hired one time. I'd hired him, and the retainer was just insane. It was just so much money, and I said, and I asked him. One day I said, okay, well, I need this done, because my thinking was that that okay, I got this lawyer now. If I need something done, if I need to sue the bastard or whatever, I can just call my lawyer and he'll be on the phone and he'll go kick somebody's butt. So I went to him. I said, okay, I need you to do this for me. He said, oh, well, I can't do that, but I can refer you to somebody who does. And I was like, okay, all right, cool, okay. Well, I said, okay, well, do this for me. And he said, well, I can't do that, but I can refer you to somebody who does. And so I was looking at him like, well, what can you do? I mean, you everything I'm asking you to do, you can't do it. And he basically made a list of things that he could do for the money. And I said, you're kind of doing the same thing that Rocket Lawyer did for me. And Rocket Lawyer was $80 a month. So I had to let him go, and I didn't want to be mean. I mean, I would still hire him if I needed him, but I said, I don't really understand how your service exceeds Rocket Lawyer. I'm literally looking at this list, and I'm looking at their list, and their list includes everything that your list has. So, when you get your lawyer, you need a lawyer for your business, or you need legal help, you want to have contracts, stuff like that. Use sites like Rocket Lawyer, because it's a great way to get contracts done. I get them done in 10 minutes. You fire them over, everybody signs, and then you also have lawyers available. If you need an attorney for your business, you can email them and ask them questions. They give you, I think, 6 free consultations per year. And then if you hire an attorney off of the consultation, because they give you the free consultations because they're trying to solicit your business, they're trying to get you to eventually hire them. So if you do hire them, they have to give you a 40% discount. So that's how business is done in the new millennium. See, the way you don't want to learn how to do business is you don't want to learn how to do business from people who haven't really done business on the internet, because what's going to happen is they're going to overpay for everything. Their timelines are going to be much longer. For example, they're going to say stuff like, oh, well, a business doesn't become profitable for 5 years. Many of you have heard that it takes 5 years for a business to become profitable. Now, I'm not trying to say that this can't happen, but a lot of black folks can't wait 5 years to become profitable. You don't quit your job, you need to make some money quick. Now I'm not saying that it's an overnight kind of thing, but there are ways to invest very little money and to become profitable. Instead of waiting 5 years, it could be 5 or 6 months. A good book that I was talking about is the $100 Startup, which teaches you how to invest very little money to beta test your product and put out what they call the MVP, the minimum viable product, so that you can see if it works before you invest the big money. Another thing too is that the internet allows you to invest in a way that is not what I call top heavy. Top heavy investing is when you put out tons of money before you make a dollar back, before you have done a single market test. That is horribly risky, especially for a black entrepreneur who just quit their job and who's using their life savings to get started. You don't want to use $30,000 to find out if you can make a dollar back, because you may spend all your money building a product and have nobody want that product. So what you do is, you instead of 30,000, you invest 300, maybe 1,000, something like that. Get something out there, test it out, just see what, put the minimum out that you can do to get the information you need, and then when you might have a touchdown, then boom, you step out there. The other thing too, though, is that because black people can't get bank loans, creative financing is absolutely critical for us. Financing is not just the bank signing a contract to give you a bunch of money. Financing is anything that allows you to get the liquidity you need in order to make your investment. So, financing might be this. Financing could be, let's say that you come work for me and you want $1,000 a month. I might say to you, okay, how about this? I'm not going to pay you $1,000 a month, how about I pay you $1,400 a month or $1,300 a month, but you give me 6 months to start paying you, right? So you agree to that. So what you've effectively done is you've given me a loan for about $7,200 or something, like $7,400 or something like that. You've given me a $7,000 loan, because now I have an employee or I have a contractor who will work for me, not charge me anything, but I'm going to owe them $7,000 and something when it's done. Now, it's very risky, but it's a tactic, right? I've used this before. Or if you owe someone money, and you if you get them to delay the amount of the time that you have to repay them, like you owe them the money now, and you say, hey, can I pay you in 6 months? Well, they're giving you a loan. They're giving you financing. Another type of financing is selling the product before you actually make it. Now, this is a little tricky. It's a little tough to do, but you've seen that Tariq Nasheed, who made Hidden Colors, the very popular film that the black community loves. Tariq, brilliant guy. Tariq does not finance his own films. He lets his audience finance the film. He tells them about the film, that he's gonna work on it. He does a crowd fund, and we actually have a crowdfunding site that you can check out if you want to. It's blackcrowdfunders.com. He does a crowdfunding campaign. He raises a couple $100,000, and then boom, he's got all the money he needs to buy his cameras, to pay his people, to pay his production crew, all of that, and then he's able to also make a profit. You understand? So financing can be done in a lot of ways, and you really want to kind of think about how you're getting the cash flow in your hand. Running a business is largely about cash flow. It's as much about cash flow as it is profitability, because more businesses fail due to a lack of cash flow than due to a lack of profitability. So let's see here. Alexandria says, I just happened to be in my email sending out resumes to design studios, and then your webinar came up. I needed to hear your voice today. Well, I needed to hear your voice, Alexandria. Thank you for the kind words, and I'm glad that you're here. And I wish you very good luck. And quit sending out them resumes. You want people sending their resume to you. But it takes time. Just have faith. You'll get there. Marvin Dixon, he says, happy holidays. Good to see you, Marvin. Renee says, Dr. Boyce, I've been teaching my nephew what I've been learning and encouraging him to think about ways to create other streams of income. Very good. Always plant the seed. Okay, Malizio says, great info. Good, good, good. I'm glad you're enjoying the info. In case you guys want to know, if you guys really want to help us, if you can like find some excuse to take a class at the Black Business School, or look at the other classes that are available, or at least give us the opportunity to replace the education that you might get from these universities, that would really mean a lot to me, because we're trying to attract the best faculty. We've got some great people there. We've got entrepreneurs like Damon Dash, but we've also got former professors like Nomalanga Mushali Moses, Jessica Smith, who's an accountant and who also taught at a university, Lene Javette, who's a crowdfunding expert. So we've got some people in there like that as well. And what I want to do is I want to go and get some of these really brilliant black professors and get them off of their plantation and have them come back to their people. So we need funding in order to do that. So if you can pick a class or two, even if you don't want to take it, if you want to just give a scholarship or something, that would be really helpful, because this is something we created that we wanted to be very high quality and a low cost alternative, because people are going into deep debt trying to go to school, trying to go to these universities. I'm not trying to say people shouldn't do it, but I've taught in these universities for a long time, so I know what you get and what you don't get. And one of the things you don't get is you don't get black professors most of the time. You also don't get professors who know how to run a business. And you also get professors who don't understand the black struggle and the necessity for black building. A lot of universities will prepare you very well to go work for somebody else. We're not interested in teaching you how to go work for somebody else. We're here to teach you how to position yourself so other people will work for you, or you'll be an investor and you'll be an owner and things like that. So that's what makes us unique. So the blackbusinessschool.com, I assume you know the URL. Everybody here's a member, but if you want to help us out, take a class, sign up for something. That would really be awesome. We'd appreciate that. Okay, so let's see here. Fonte says, is share builders a good option for investing? I don't know share builders. You have to send me a link, Fonte. But if you send me a link, I'll take a look at it and see what they have to offer. Okay, so let's see. Okay, Cleve is mentioning keeping your poise. Oh, producer, owner, investor, saver. So poise is POIS, and that stands for producer, owner, say investor, saver. And remember, that's also in addition to the cost model. The cost model, Black Economic Empowerment, means that everybody should pay the cost for their freedom. The C stands for contribute. The O stands for own. The S stands for save. The T stands for target. And the cost model is something we drill deeply into in the Black Wealth Bootcamp. So if you haven't checked that out, I think you really enjoy the Black Wealth Bootcamp. You can find out about that at this link. I'll give you the link to the Black Wealth Bootcamp. It's the blackwealthbootcamp.com. Literally, our success and approval rating from students in the Black Wealth Bootcamp is over 90%. We are very proud of that. We have had people say on a regular basis that I learned more in this class than I learned in my entire 4 years of college. If you haven't done the boot camp yet, I believe that you should. It will change your life, I guarantee it. You can get a 20% discount by using this code, Dr. Boyce fan page. So I just sent you guys the code. So if you haven't done the boot camp yet, you definitely should do the boot camp. Okay, so let's see. Michael says, "How do we submit a request to form a partnership with you to utilize your platform?" Just email me. Just send me an email. And I know, and my manager gets on me for giving my email address out so much, but I figured Jesse Jackson literally gave me his personal phone number, like back when nobody knew who I was. And so I'm like, if Jesse Jackson can give his number out to strangers, then I can give my email address out. And but I do get a lot of emails. So if you miss me, just email me again, and I'll find it at some point. Okay, so let's see. Joe Smith, what do you think about our $1 trillion government budget? I think that in terms of the government spending and where our government is financially, America is on what I would call a sinking economic ship. America is not what it used to be. It doesn't produce the way it used to. The divide between the rich and the poor is growing. It's only going to get worse because we've decided that greed is good. The government has way too much debt. The debt is at a level that many experts consider to be entirely unsustainable. We cannot pay all that debt. We can't even handle the interest on the debt. In fact, the United States government is very, very close to potentially defaulting on that debt. In fact, if there was, God forbid, say a terrorist attack or something crazy like that, you would probably see the United States default on its government debt for the first time in either in American history or maybe 200 years. I would say that we have a serious problem. Here's the other thing, though. We overspend in the government without a doubt, but we also don't do a good enough job of taxing the wealthy. Ever since Ronald Reagan was in office, we came they bought America was fed this pile of bullshit called trickle down economics, which basically said that if we cut taxes for the rich, then that money will trickle down. That the companies are going to hire people, they're going to make investments, the wealthy are going to do things that stimulate economic activity, and workers are going to benefit, etc. But they push forward this idea without a full understanding of how capitalism operates when it's in an unregulated environment. The way capitalism operates is capitalism does not give a damn about you. Capitalism does not care about workers at all. Capitalism, if you can make money by making people into slaves, capitalism says yes, you should do that because the number one goal of capitalism is to maximize shareholder wealth. That means to take care of the people at the top. That's the first thing you're taught to teach about capitalism. If you teach finance, and that to me was very, very strange. So what happens is you give all these benefits to the rich. You inject all this money into the rich, but the rich don't trickle any of that down. They're going to hire workers still for the minimum that they can get them for. If that means shipping jobs overseas to China, they're going to do it. They don't care about the environment. They don't care about their suppliers. They don't even care about the customers. You gouge the customers as much as you possibly can. The only way capitalism works in a healthy way is if it's regulated. You see, and that's the problem. In addition to cutting taxes for the wealthy and injecting capital into the hands of the rich, we also reduce regulation. We also got rid of laws that kept the rich people from exploiting the poor people. So it's almost like imagine if you got three kids in your house. You got a 14-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And you say to the 14-year-old, "Hey, I'm going to give you $50, and I want you to share that money equally with your brother and your sister." And let's say that the 14-year-old is a greedy pig. Let's say all the kids are greedy. All the kids are just little greedy pigs that they'll take what they can have. But the 14-year-old's the biggest. He can beat up the 9-year-old. The 9-year-old can beat up the 4-year-old. So let's say that the 14-year-old takes that 50. And first of all, do you really think that 14-year-old is going to equally share that money with his brother and his sister? No, they're not, right? They're going to give the 9-year-old $10 and say, "Okay, share that with your brother," and the 9-year-old may give the 4-year-old $1. And that's sort of the rich, the middle class, and the poor, right? And the only way that money is going to be distributed equally is if the parent stays there and makes sure everybody gets their fair share. You need regulation in order for capitalism or trickle down economics or any of that stuff to actually work. We don't have adequate regulations. So what's happened as a result is that the wealth of the rich, the 14-year-old, has gone up, up, up. The middle class we held on for a while, and now it's starting to go down, down, down. The poor has always gotten its butt kicked in America, and it's only going to get worse. And that's why we have these problems with our budget right now. Okay. And they're only going to get worse. So as black people, you have to build your economic ship. You gotta understand. this ship is sinking. You got to build a lifeboat. A lifeboat means, what are you and your family going to do when the economy starts to change? You can't go to these corporations and get jobs the way you used to. In fact, the average rent in America now is $1,372. That is a 26% increase in the last 2 years. Now, according to a recent study at Harvard University, the average American cannot afford to pay their rent. It costs more for childcare now than it costs to pay rent, and more than it costs to go to a university for a year. And in-state tuition does not exceed the amount that people are paying for childcare. So people can't afford rent. They can't afford to have kids. It's only getting worse. And part of the reason is that you're not in a society anymore where you can get a regular job and afford to pay for all these things. You have to find alternative economic situations. So, what are some alternatives? Number one, maybe, again, not judging, but if you have kids, you might want to be cautious and make sure that you have a child with somebody that can help you pay some of those bills. It costs $250,000 to raise a child to the age of 18. It's tough to do that by yourself. What's another thing? If you have kids and they become adults, maybe you raise your kids so that they are productive economic entities in the household. They're not sort of 25-year-old welfare recipients, but they're 25-year-olds who have skills or at least understand their responsibility of contributing to the household financially. That's why when you see immigrants coming over from Mexico and other places, what do? They have 10 people in the house and they're all chipping in to help pay the bills. That is a strategy of economic survival. What's another thing you do? You learn how to have a side hustle. You don't have one stream of income. You want to have 4, 5, 6, 10, as many as you possibly can. And you also own these things. You create these things so that you have actual ownership in things, so that you don't have to work another hour to make an hour's worth of money. You want to have businesses so that, and I was explaining this to my mentee the other day. She's actually my goddaughter too. And I was telling her, I said, I said, you're being treated badly by your boss because you're choosing to accept that treatment and you haven't created options for yourself. And I said, what you want is you want a life where you can go to bed and wake up the next morning and know that you made $1,000 that night while you were asleep. There are businesses you can create where that happens. It's just we don't see that as black people. Okay, so when's the next boot camp? The next boot camp, Brian, is January 9th. So January 9th, early next year, that's when the next boot camp begins. So I hope to see you in the boot camp, Brian. Okay. Next, let's see here. Christopher Pitt says, Dr. Watkins, I'm starting an engineering firm specializing in automated production systems. I love that. Where would you begin in reaching out to growing companies as they grow their brands? Okay. So you're creating automated production systems for growing companies that are trying to grow their brands. I think social media is a great way to advertise for a low price. I was just talking to somebody yesterday, a pretty successful celebrity type, and I just told him, I said, one of the things that people don't know, they sleep on, is the fact that social media advertising is actually far cheaper and far more effective than television and radio and print, because he was spending tens of thousands of dollars, marketing on television and radio. And I said, really, I think you're sleeping on Facebook. Maybe social media is a good place to start, because social media advertising allows you to specifically target exactly who you want. So in fact, when I started building my brand and building my businesses and things like that, my goal was never to reach everybody. I don't want everybody coming to my Facebook page. I don't want everybody emailing me. I wanted black people. And I wanted black people also with a certain mindset. Either you already had a progressive mindset where you're not afraid of white folks, you want to build a better community, you possibly want to build wealth, and you want to learn. So it doesn't mean that you have to be smart already. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be educated, but you have to at least want to be those things, because that's what you're going to get from me. So we market specifically to those people. We don't market to people who are addicted to coonery. We don't market to people who, and I'm not talking about just being addicted to it in the sense that you don't know any better. I'm talking about addicted in the sense that you're going to be an impediment to those who are trying to progress. As Harriet Tubman used to talk about, how she couldn't free every slave because some slaves wanted to fight for master. They wanted to stay on the plantation. I'm not looking for people like that. I'm looking for runaway slaves. Either you already are running away and you can help me get other people off, or you're seeking a better life. You're seeking a solution. And then the other thing, to be honest with you, is I didn't want people who were not black, period. I don't want angry white people on my page trying to debate with me and stuff. I don't have time for that. They have to go talk to somebody else. So So the social media is beautiful because you can actually target those people and market to them. And if you structure your business in the right way, maybe you sell products or something like that, you can market in a way that it's profitable, so you can keep marketing. So the media grows because of the commerce. The commerce grows because of the media. So that's kind of how our business is structured. We're sort of, and it's really very similar to actually how television networks run. Television networks are able to televise things to an audience and market their shows because they have corporate sponsors, right? And corporate sponsors come in, they say, hey, can you talk about Kraft macaroni and cheese? Can you talk about Nike sneakers, whatever? And when you air your football game, so they'll air Monday Night Football and they'll say, this is brought to you by Nike, right? And so Nike wins because they're selling more. They have to sell more sneakers from the show. If they're not selling more sneakers, they're not going to keep running the ads. The show has to target a certain demographic so they can tell Nike, this is who we're marketing to. This is their average income level, education level, etc. This is your consumer. And so ultimately it becomes like this interesting ecosystem. Nike pays money to the media outlet, which does the show and markets the product. The consumer sees the show, but they also see the product. So the consumer goes back and they buy the product from the corporation, which gives the corporation money to go back and advertise again. Well, the thing about us as a smaller business is that we knew that we could not go get white people to necessarily market to us, except for when they were coming to us with a specific agenda. Unfortunately, because of the kind of message we have, one that's very strong, very black, we know certain corporations aren't going to digest that. They're going to try to dilute that. So we had to be very picky and say, we're not interested in partnering with everybody. We're not interested in having investors or investment funds from anybody. We're not interested in any kind of marketer, because if you pick the wrong money, and this is something black people don't understand. And actually, I talk about this in my book, Black American Money. I talk about this a lot because this is how the NAACP and other organizations get corrupted. Is that black people, unfortunately, because we're so desperate for money, we take money from anybody without thinking about what the implications are of taking that money. So it's almost like you ever see these little girls on Instagram who are so desperate for attention that they will literally take any kind of selfie with their butt out or whatever and attract any old kind of man just so that the man will hit the like button on Instagram for them. It's kind of the same way. We're like that desperate teenager on Instagram hoping that some man will come along and hit the like button, maybe because we don't have enough validation of self-esteem to see our own self-worth. If you see your self-worth, you're not going to take money from just anybody. You're going to take money from places that are consistent with the values that you espouse. So ultimately, it did require some construction, some thought, very deep, very careful thought. I've had to reject a lot of people that wanted to invest in us. And I encourage you, when you start building your business, don't just do what other people will tell you. What a lot of people will tell you is they'll say, oh girl, you got a good company, you could go out and you can get corporations to sponsor you, or you can get money from the government, or you can get this person to invest in you. And those things might work for you, but you got to be really, really careful, because you get the wrong partner, the wrong sponsor, they can end up diluting your message and screwing you up and ruining everything that you've built. And then in fact you end up becoming the same slave with a different master. So think about that, where you get your money. That's very, very important. Okay. So anyway, let's move on. Okay, so Kelly asks, how can we explain to our kids without sounding like we are pushing them to be an entrepreneur? I think that here's the thing about giving advice as a parent, in my opinion, or as a mentor. I was explaining this to a brother today. I went to this radio station in Chicago. It's WGCI. It's kind of an urban hip hop type station. And I was talking to a brother who was talking about how he was in the barber shop and he was talking to young guys about a topic. It had to do with this controversy I had with the rapper Lil Wayne a couple years ago about his song with Emmett Till. He did a song where he disrespected Emmett Till, and I didn't find it acceptable. And we got Mountain Dew to kill his endorsement. He lost probably $20 million because we stood up as a community and said, this is nonsense. We're not going to let you disrespect people who matter to our community. And it was sad because he felt that because black people don't have money and power, that we can be ignored. And my argument is that we will get respect when we command it, and also we have an obligation to protect our children from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. That means that sometimes you got to pick up the sword and stab a black person too if they're trying to hurt your children. Period. That's just the way it is. So long story short, and I didn't want to get to that point, but it did. It is what it is. So moving on. So one of the points I made to the brother today was this. I said, look, because he said he was in the barbershop. He said, man, I was trying to explain to these young cats that he can't disrespect Emmett Till. Like, that's bad. He said, I showed him a picture of Emmett Till, and they still were like, so what? No big deal. It's just a song. And I said, well, here's the thing. I said, when you talk to young people, what you got to understand is that they're not always going to get what you say the first time you say it. In fact, there's often a delay. If you're anything like I was as a young person, there might be a 10-year delay between the time that you say something to me and the time I actually understand what you're saying. And it might be a matter of me maturing. It might be a matter of me having certain life experiences that allow me to contextualize what you just said. So think about your own life. How many times did your parents say things to you where you said, "Oh my God, they get on my nerves. Oh, I wish she would shut up." And then years later, you're doing the same thing, or you're telling your kids the same thing, or you're reflecting on it and saying, "Yeah, I remember my mama snatched me out the club and grabbed me by my hair. I was so embarrassed. I was so mad, but I'm glad she did it." You see what I mean? And so what I explained to him is, I said, I remember a brother when I was in college, when I was 21, and you would think, okay, this guy's a 21-year-old Boyce Watkins. Of course, he was conscious about certain things and understood certain things. No, this guy came to our campus and he was talking a lot of the same stuff that I say now, and I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. I was too indoctrinated into this other white supremacist way of thinking, this idea that I was going to go out and be a corporate Negro and get a job making good money for some company. I thought he was complaining about racism because maybe he didn't work hard enough or whatever. Again, I'm not ashamed to say that. I was a little bit of a coon back then as a kid, but I didn't know anything. I had not experienced certain things. So I remember listening to this guy and just thinking, this is bullshit. I mean, what is this guy talking about? But here's the thing. This guy encouraged me to read a few books. I read the books, and then years later, I reflect on that conversation that he had with us as a group of black men, and that is a reference, one of my references for manhood that I utilize to this day. And so, if he had just said, "Oh, he ain't listening, I'm not gonna say it," then I would never have gotten that. I wouldn't have that reference. So when you're talking to your kids, just know that they're probably not going to listen to you, or appear to be listening to you. Also, there's what psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, where when you give somebody a set of ideas that are so different from what they already have become accustomed to, there's an initial shock. There's a lot of brain energy required to process this new information and reshape how they see the whole world. So some people can absorb that, but some people freak out. Some people just get mad. Their first reaction is anger. And then what you do is you share the information anyway. And then what will happen is, if what you're saying is making sense, then eventually it will sink in. The other thing is too, that with young people, everything has to be like they used to have that song, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. You know, I don't know if you remember that song. A spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. Okay. Anyway, I love this. When I was a kid, it was like in Mary Poppins or something like that. Anyway, so if you lace your sugar is love. If you lace everything that you do with love, even if you're yelling at them, kids are not stupid. They know who cares and who doesn't. And so if you lace it with love, then the whole conversation becomes more digestible than it would if you came at them in a judgmental fashion, or you didn't learn how to connect first. I mean, before Pastor Kevin Cosby always says this. He says, before you correct, you must connect. So just make sure you connect, and then so if you're feeding them a good dinner, or feeding them ice cream or something while you're giving them advice, they're probably going to be more receptive. If you tell them "I love you" first before you start yelling at them, they're probably going to listen. So lace it with love and keep giving the information, and then your child will embrace that. Especially when they run into situations they don't understand, they're going to look back and say, "Well, how would Mama handle this?" Well, Mama used to always say that every black woman needs to have some FU money. Tyra Banks actually said that. She actually quoted me on that recently. I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know Tyra, but but she said every woman needs to have a little FU money. She called it "fuck you" money. And so your daughter grows up, she's going to say, "Well, my mama used to always say every woman needs to have some FU money on the side in case things go wrong." So she's going to lean on that in terms of how to deal with the situation that's in front of her. So anyway, so keep trying, don't give up. All right, Jordan asks, what is better, investing in real estate or in stock? It kind of depends. I think it also depends on how much money you have. Financially, in terms of the amount that you need to get involved, the stock market has a much lower threshold. You can go buy stock for $10. Real estate is a little tougher. Real estate requires you to have some cash flow. Also, real estate is a little trickier because Real estate's not something you want to jump into if you don't have either somebody really guiding you on it or some knowledge and expertise where you spend some time studying it. Because a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people get hammered with real estate. So before you really jump in, you may want to partner with somebody who really knows real estate, and make sure you're not locking yourself into really tough situations that are going to become more complex than it's worth. And then also, there's a liquidity issue there. The stock market is very liquid. What is liquidity? Liquid means that something is easily convertible to cash. So I've got a stock portfolio. If I decide that I want my stocks to just, I need some cash, I can literally go and hit a couple buttons and sell some stock, put that money in my bank account. I got cash tomorrow, right? Real estate, you can't really do that. Real estate is a longer term play. It might be 5, 10 years before you start making the money you deserve. So you need to be ready for that. Those are some of the differences. I'm not going to say one is always better than the other. I would just say that one is different from the other. And that's really how you should evaluate every investment scenario. There are very few situations where one is clearly better than the other. Most financial questions have one answer, and the answer is it depends. That means it depends on the situation, whether you should go left or right. It depends on the economy, etc. So it's like in fact it's like me asking you, I don't know. Let me see. Should you drive east or west tomorrow? Or when you get in your car next week. Well, you're gonna say, well, it depends on where I'm going. If I'm going to the grocery store, I need to go east. But if I'm going to work, I need to go west, right? So investing is kind of the same way. All right. So, or if I say, should you have your umbrella, next week when you leave the house? You're gonna say, well, it depends. If it's raining, then yeah, I want an umbrella. All right. So I'm gonna answer a couple more questions, then we're gonna pop out of here. By the way, guys, before I forget, I want to remind you, if you want to join the Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program, the URL is in the chat section. You can just click on that and your kids can join. If you want to join the Black Wealth Bootcamp, that URL is there as well. Use the discount code Dr. Boyce fan page. And also, actually, the Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program, I forgot to tell you, there is actually a discount for that you can get if you sign up today. That it's a pre-Christmas discount. I know what it is. It's Christmas one. Christmas is the number one word. That is a 25% discount you can get up until Christmas. So if you sign up for Christmas, you can get a reduced price. All right. So let's see here. Let me see. Patrina asks, what can I do to get my child started in business building? My child has started her own candy tree business, but how do we help, or how do we push or help it more? Well, first and foremost, the Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program, what I just mentioned, is exactly for children like yours. It's all part of what we call the Plant the Seed initiative, where we're going to do every single thing we can to encourage as many parents in America to start businesses with their children. We're going to encourage children. We want an army of black wealth builders, an army of young black entrepreneurs, an army of black children that are financially literate and sophisticated, even if it's on a fundamental basic level. Because American financial literacy is so bad, so low, that you can literally teach somebody things in maybe 10 or 15 minutes that would literally put them well ahead of the curve. In that class I sent you, the Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program, the first class, 15 things every black child should know about money. When I compared that to what my students knew at Syracuse University, and these were seniors, I taught seniors for about 12 years at Syracuse, plus at other schools. Your child would probably know almost as much about money as a college student, if not more. There are a lot of college students where I could ask them the definitions of those terms, and they would not know the answers to those questions. So we're also going to have other things that involve, things your child should know about investing. I'm putting together a module on that. We have self-study, kinds of things and tests and things like that. So you may want to try putting your child in that program. But specifically as it relates to the candy tree business, how you market it would depend. But I can tell you, one example is King Face. King Face is like king and face, the face of the king. It's a sweatshirt company that was started by a young brother in Atlanta with his mother, and they just sent me their sweatshirts, and they're very nice shirts. What they've done is they've created a Facebook fan page to kind of get things started, where they can sell their products to their fan page. Facebook has very good e-commerce options, where if you can hire a programmer on Upwork or Elance or something like that, and they can set up your page for e-commerce. Then maybe you might have a Shopify store. I don't think that building a website should always be your first resort when it comes to starting a business. Websites, it costs money to build a website. It takes work to get traffic to a website. One of the biggest mistakes I see with people on websites is that a lot of people will create websites and they don't even think about how they're going to get traffic for that website. And they just sort of think, they sort of use this like hope, wish, and pray model of business that says, I'm going to just create this thing and hope, wish, and pray that somebody's going to find it. Or if I tell a couple people on Facebook, everybody's going to flood to my site. That's not going to happen. That's kind of like getting on a boat with a sail and hoping that the wind carries you wherever you got to go. I mean, maybe it can, but it's going to be very, very slow, right? I like to put a motor on my boat. A motor is advertising, and the beauty of online advertising is that you can start with very little money. I can literally run ad campaigns for a dollar. If you can't afford a dollar, then I feel sorry for you. So think about little things like that. The key is making sure that you get bang for your buck and that you kind of learn from people who've already done it. And that's the benefit, just so you guys know, of being in the Black business schools, that we have people who've already done it. When you have somebody that tells you exactly where to go, it's like going to a destination. If I tell you exactly how to get there and I give you a GPS, you're going to get there a lot quicker than if you just start driving in every direction, hoping that one day you find it. You might find it eventually, but you're going to drive probably 20 times further than you would if you had somebody that can give you just a straight shot to where you need to go. Okay, let's see here. Latoya asks, she says, my homeschool youngins are looking for a business venture and are thinking about writing books to sell online and at local public libraries. Do you recommend self-publishing? Um, Let me see. You know what? I'll tell you what. And Latoya mentions that she's signing up for the Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program, and I'm really happy for you. I think that that's going to be exactly what your kids need. So let me tell you why I got excited when I saw Latoya's comment. Two things that I believe in. These are literally two foundations on which I base my entire life, my life's work. Two things. Number one, Black people should need to educate our own kids. If you can't homeschool them, that's fine, but make sure that they're getting homeschooled when they come home from school, because this school system is never going to teach your child how to be an empowered African American in this country. They don't have time to do it. They don't have the money to do it. They don't have the desire to do it. It's not in their interest to do it, right? It's not your oppressor's job to create empowered Black people. Let's get that through our heads right now. Number two, every Black child in America needs to know how to make their own money. Basically, to this point, what we're doing is we have rented the economic system that the white man built for his kids. And we are wondering why we're not being treated as if we're white. We're moving in somebody else's house and wondering why they're not treating us like a relative. That's exactly what we're doing. That's why we look stupid. We really look stupid, and we should feel stupid because we have to build our own economic systems. So what I like about Latoya's comment is that she's homeschooling her kids and she's teaching them to build a business. That's the best kind of homeschool ever. I mean, think about this. You're educating your child at home. They're happier because they're not just getting a quality education that's specific to their needs as young Black children, but they're getting to spend time with their mother, probably thousands of hours with mom that they never would have gotten if they were spending all their time away and she was spending all her time at the corporation. The mother's happier because she gets to stay home and she gets to be with her kids. She gets to do something that probably fits, with more naturally with her instinct than serving the corporation. She can build a business of her own if she wants to, so she can pursue her professional objectives and pursue her goal as a mother at the same time without falling for this nonsense that corporations are feeding us, saying that mothers need to be away from their kids and out serving a corporation. No, I don't believe that. I believe that there's no job more important on this earth than being a mother. If mothers stopped doing their jobs, all of society would go straight to hell. I mean, you want to see a crazy adult, go find somebody who had mommy abandonment issues. That's where you get your serial killers from, okay? So the mother's happier, and also here's the other beautiful thing. This is what makes it so amazing is that so you're at home, you're loving your child, you're teaching your child, you're layering education with love, which makes the child more receptive to the information because it's specifically tailored to them and is being given to them by somebody who loves them. The mother-child bond is stronger because you're spending more time with your children. The mother's building her business on the side or whatever she wants to do because she's got time now. She can be home, and if she's a wife, she's a better wife because she's able to spend more time with her family. And then the mother and the children are engaging in the activity of education by building this business together. So every time they're doing business, the children are watching mommy. They're getting experiential education in addition to what they learn from a book. There's no school on the planet that's going to give them all that. None. So then on top of this, here's the other thing. Here's the long-term play that people may not think about. On top of this, As the mother gets older, she's raised these children with a value system that's consistent with the family's success and survival, consistent with the success and the happiness of the child. The child hits adulthood, they don't ever have to have a boss, so their lives are far more fulfilling because those 20,000 hours they would have spent at the corporation, that are literally two-thirds of their life that they were going to spend of their waking hours that they were going to spend at the corporation, they now get to spend that time actually living in addition to actually building their careers. So they're more successful, they're happier, they're more fulfilled. But then on top of that, as the mother gets older, her children are not financial liabilities, they are financial assets. These are not the children who are going to come in at the age of 35 and say, Mama, can I borrow $30? They're not going to do that. They're going to come and say, Mama, do you need anything? Oh, Mom, you're going on vacation, let me pay for it, Mom. My mother was a young single mom when she first had me. She eventually got married when I was 3 to the man that I consider my father. Love that man, a great man, taught me manhood. But my mother was a 17-year-old single mother. She grew up in a poor neighborhood. She raised me, and the whole time she was raising me and my brother and sister, she got a lot of pushback from her friends who felt that she was too hard on us, that she was just kind of doing things the wrong way, and she didn't even know she was doing the right thing. She didn't, but she just, she used to always say, I want my children to be independent. I want my children to be able to take care of themselves in case I'm gone, etc. Or she would even say stuff like, when you go to college, I'm not paying for, I'm not going in debt sending you to school. You better get a scholarship. Or she'd say, when you get older, I'm not paying your bills. When you get 18, it's time for you to move out of the house. So these were hard lessons to kind of absorb, but it pushed me out of the nest. It pushed us to be independent. So let me tell you how this all plays out. Okay, so all of my friends I grew up with, almost every single one of them, especially the boys, not one single one of them is really doing all that well. Some are dead, some are in prison. Most of them are broke. If I get together with my old friends, I'm usually paying the bill. I got one friend who had a job working at like a restaurant, and he became a manager of a restaurant, and he was doing okay. That's the best I can really think of, to be honest with you. I got a PhD. My sister became a medical doctor, and my brother got a master's degree at Cornell. He's now an entrepreneur. So here's what happens now with my parents as they're getting older in their sunset years. Number one, they don't have kids borrowing money from them. We would never ever borrow money from our parents. We don't need it, and it's a matter of principle. We don't do that. When my parents go on vacation, we come up with the money to pay for that. When they wanted to go to Hawaii, I called my brother and my sister and I said, Mom and Daddy want to go to Hawaii. Cough up the cash. We gonna make this happen. You understand? So your children are part of your retirement plan. So think about that. How you raise your kids will have implications far beyond what you see right now. So I love it what you're saying, Latoya. In fact, I probably didn't even answer your question. You asked about self-publishing. I think self-publishing is great. That's the best way to go. In fact, when I talked to Dr. Mitchell about partnering with him on his book Caden is Different, my first question was, is this your book or does somebody else own it? Because if he had a publishing deal with somebody, we couldn't partner because the publisher would be taking the lion's share of the money. They literally will sell your book for $15 and take away 10 or 12 before you get anything. So he said, I self-published. I said, good. Now we can do business. We can make something work because we've got wiggle room. We can offer discounts. We can do bulk packaging deals. We can do all kinds of stuff. So self-publishing is the best way to go. You can publish a book as well by self-publishing as you can through a regular publisher. You can distribute just as well through self-publishing as you can through a regular publisher. Sometimes even better, actually. I can market my books very well when I put them out, and I haven't thought for the longest about having a publisher. Now there is actually, let me see here. There is a class that we actually have in the Black Business School you may want to take a look at, that's all about self-publishing books and making money as a writer. It's how to make a living as a writer. And you can find out about this class at the URL greatblackwriters.com. And it's a class that's taught by myself and Dr. Tyra Selden. Dr. Tyra Selden has a doctorate in English literature, so she's a very, very good writer at the ultimate highest levels. And I know how to write a book, but I also know how to market and sell a book. So we kind of pull that expertise together. We literally have 200 or 300 hours worth of video content and everything. And we actually partner with our students. So when they release books, we partner with them on a regular basis. We do, and this is something you want to do when you start a business. We do affiliate relationships. So affiliate relationships are where if one person makes the product, you can help them sell it and you just get a percentage of what you sell, right? Or the other way, if you make a product and you have a friend with a good network, they can help you sell it and they get a percentage of what they sell. That's why with the Black Business School we have the affiliate program, because we're like, well, let's partner with our students. If they want to, make start their first business by partnering with us, they can join the affiliate program. If you want to join, you can actually email me at boyce@boycewatkins.com and just put the word affiliate program in the subject line. And if that's something you're interested in or something you want to sell, we give actually our students 30% of anything that they sell, and that's 30% recurring revenue. So let's see here. Let me go. We're gonna go through a couple more questions, and then I'm almost exhausted. All this yapping, all this craziness I do, it does make me tired. I'm like a little kid. When I get done, I have to go take a nap. Let's see here. Marvin asks, are there any up and coming tech companies you can suggest that I invest in? I can't think of any, to be honest with you. When I invest in tech companies, I own some shares of Facebook. I like the way Facebook is run. Facebook stock just tends to keep going up. Let's see. I bought some, what was it, Verizon. I'm trying to think what else. I had some Amazon, and I made some money on Amazon stock. Amazon's a pretty well-run company. Amazon, and I made a lot of money in a very short period of time because some information. In case you don't know, the stock market moves based on information, information from management about the prospects of the company or things investors will want to know. And so what happened was Amazon released a statement, and they announced that their data services company, this little piece of the business that nobody thought was making any money, they made an announcement and said, oh, by the way, our data services company is worth $160 billion. And so people were like, whoa, they thought it was worth maybe 10 billion, 20 billion. It was worth 160 billion. So suddenly, because the company appeared to be worth so much more money, the stock just shot through the roof. So Amazon's a very well-run company. And the interesting thing about Amazon as well is that Amazon was worth billions of dollars before they ever even made a profit. And that sort of shows you how the market, how the pricing occurs. Stocks are not priced based on how much money they made this month or last month. They're priced on how much money they're expected to make in the future. That's huge. That's what they call the present value of future cash flows. And all that is you're taking future cash flow, future money, and you're calculating what that would be worth in the present. That's something that I don't want to go into too much because there are formulas and it's a little complex. But literally every single investment on Earth in the universe is valued with that same model, what they call present value of future cash flows. Okay, so a couple more questions and then we'll head on out. Okay, how you doing, Stevie? I see Stevie said hello. Okay, Quadwo says, he says he appreciates what I'm doing for the community. Well, thank you, Quadwo. I appreciate that, brother. Thank you. Okay, so Stephanie Poole, Dr. Watkins, are you familiar with the income for life retirement account? It is life insurance with a rider on it so that it gains 6% interest and can grow to large amounts without being considered an endowment account. Is this an account that is reliable or just another way to hide money from the government? I don't know much about this. If you want to send me a link, I can look at it. I mean, I can tell you the difference between, say, term and whole life policies. This income for life retirement account, I've never heard of this. Based on what you tell me, it sounds like it might be a decent deal. Because a lot of insurance policies are basically built on you loaning money to the company, where your insurance company can become a little bit like a bank. And in fact, if you remember AIG was one of the big companies. That's an insurance conglomerate that almost went bankrupt during the market crash. And it was scary for investors because if AIG had fallen over, it could literally have had a huge ripple effect on the entire economy. And the reason for that is because when AIG is collecting the premiums from people that buy policies from them, they're not just sitting on that money. Big capital never sits still. Money, in fact, money should never sit still. What they do is they take the money and they invest it in other stuff. They put it in other places. The risky part of that, though, is that if you're the investor, you giving your money to AIG in your insurance policy, you're thinking, I've got so much money with AIG, just like with your bank. You give your money to the bank, you're thinking, okay, the bank has my $1,000 in it. No, it doesn't. The bank does not have your $1,000. The bank may have 100 of it. $900 of that money has been invested somewhere else. But what they're doing is they're relying on diversification to basically tell them, or they hope, that everybody isn't going to come get their money at the same time. That's what they call a run on the bank. When people run on a bank, like let's say that everybody got nervous and just wanted to get their money out of the bank right now, the banks would have to shut down because they don't have everybody's money. You see, what they're relying on is that everybody's not going to come in at the same time. That's why economists work so hard to maintain what's the word? Confidence in the economic system. confidence is huge. Consumer confidence is huge. Consumer confidence is measured every month because they want to know how comfortable are consumers with the state of the economy. Because when consumers get nervous, what do you do when you get nervous financially? If you're worried that your bank is going to lose your money, what are you going to do? Are you going to leave it there? No, you're going to go get it, right? Well, if you're worried that the economy is going to fail or you're going to lose your job, what do? Do you go out and buy a new car when you're worried that you might lose your job? No, you hold your money. So they worry when consumer confidence starts to drop because when consumer confidence drops, consumers don't spend, they don't invest. There's no economic activity, and so the economy starts to shrink as a result of that. So, to I guess specifically answer your question about this particular policy, Stephanie, I don't know. You can feel free to send me a link. But in general, as far as insurance, I'm a bigger fan of term life insurance policies as opposed to whole life because all whole life policies kind of become as an investment vehicle. And my argument is that you'd be better off taking that extra money. Term costs maybe this much, whole life costs maybe this much, and they're using this extra money to invest for you. But I'm kind of a believer that you can actually take that money and invest it in other places, maybe in your small business or maybe putting it in the stock market or something like that where you might be better off. But then again, that's my approach. I know that I've only bought term life policies. I don't really buy whole life. Okay. One more question. Okay, Marlon says that he has 31 acres of land that he's dedicated uh, 25 plus to our cause of building an economic base. I need help, connections, funding, and branding. Building this project, this is something you and Mr. Dash would be interested in. It's directly up the alley in which you and Mr. Dash were headed down. He's talking about Damon Dash. On the farm, but a lot bigger. Please give me a way to contact you. I don't mind putting in much work. Okay. All right. So here's my email address again. Actually, I gave it to you guys in the chat section. Another person you can reach out to is my operations manager, Lene Javette. So if you, it's operations at the blackwealthbootcamp.com, and Lene handles a lot of the business proposals that we get. I'd like to look at them all myself, but sometimes my eyeballs are literally falling out of my head. But I'm definitely interested, and the reason I'm interested, one thing I'm interested in for sure is I wanna, and this is a project I want to pursue in the spring, especially once the government deregulates equity-based crowdfunding. Here's one of the concerns I've always had is that the Securities and Exchange Commission, they work very, very hard to monitor and to control the way money is raised, how shares of stock are sold for good reason. Because what happened was before they started making these regulations, they had people just lying to people, just collecting money and saying, "Oh, you have a share, etc." And then these people would give their money and they would find out that they didn't have anything, that the person collecting the money just took it and went and bought a new house or something with it. And so they have all these regulations that where basically there are things I legally cannot do. Like I legally cannot, in case you're wondering why I haven't done this, I legally cannot say to everybody on my Facebook page, let's all pull together $500,000 and go buy a farm, and everybody will own a percentage of the farm based on what they contribute, because you have to have certain certifications to do that. They're very expensive to get, and I have to figure out the right way to do that in a legal framework. I'm not trying to have myself on the cover of the Wall Street Journal where people think I'm ripping people off because I did something that the Securities and Exchange Commission did not approve. However, here's an opening, and this is an opportunity I think for the black community. Equity-based crowdfunding is going to have the regulations, the bureaucracy reduced substantially. So, we're going to do two things with the Black Business School this year. Number one, we're going to do a regular crowdfunding campaign where we're going to raise money. We're going to raise money for scholarships to hire top black faculty. We want to do national tours where I go to maybe 50 or 100 cities across the country and talk about financial literacy. Like, we really want to really push this financial literacy piece as far as we can, this wealth building piece, black business building, etc. The second thing we want to do, maybe 2 or 3 months out after that, is we want to do an equity-based crowdfunding initiative where we want to raise maybe a large sum of money, like $1 million, and create what I think the black community needs, which is a very strong entrepreneurship tech incubator. And now, how does that look? What does that look like? Well, it's something similar. Look up this company. It's the Y Combinator. See, white folks been doing this for the longest. That's why you see these multi-billion-dollar tech companies coming out of the air, because they're incubating their talent. when they see a Mark Zuckerberg, they don't tell him go work for somebody and just become an employee. No, they say, what's your idea? Let us help you incubate and grow your idea. Well, how do you do that? Well, first thing, you have a competition. You have everybody submit their ideas, show you what they've already done. You pick the very best ones, almost like a Shark Tank type situation. Then you pick maybe the top 10, top 20 ideas, and you say, okay, we want to incubate these ideas. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to give you a ton of money. White folks, they give the Y Combinator, they give their kids like 150,000 or whatever. We might have to do 20,000 or something like that. But it's the same idea. So we give maybe $20,000, and then what you do on top of that is you don't just invest the money. You help them to really strengthen their ideas. You offer them expertise so that the company becomes successful. So you bring them all together. This is what I want to do: bring them all to one central physical location. Maybe 100 really high quality black entrepreneurs. Bring in some experts in different areas, experts in marketing, various forms of technology, entrepreneurship, business development, all of that, and have them spend like maybe a month in this space where all they're doing is working on their ideas, bouncing ideas off of each other, getting oversight from experts, and kind of talking to people, presenting their ideas so that they're subjected to a certain type of scrutiny, and then pushing them out in the market, getting help with the launch of their products. Because I can tell you what will happen out of this, if we're able to make this really work, is we will have a black version of Facebook come out of this. We will have a black Google come out of this. We will have the next Mark Zuckerberg or whatever come out of our community and be really successful and create something that'll be worth billions of dollars. So that's really my biggest dream right now. That's what keeps me up at night. That's what I'm always thinking about. So with this farmland, maybe that's the first start. I don't care if it's a farm in Montana or Georgia or whatever. If there's something out there, some land that we can get, then I'd love to do that. So when I launch that project, I will tell all of you guys about it, and I hope that you believe me with all sincerity when I tell you I really want to do this, and I think that we have what it takes to make it happen. What I really wish is that we could get some of these brainwashed athletes to stop dropping $500,000 at the club and strip joints, and actually look at some of these ideas and see these opportunities that are out there, because there's so much opportunity, it's ridiculous. But instead, we just like to give our money back to white people. That's our biggest problem right now. So anyway, I'm gonna stop talking now because these lights are making me sweat. If I lift up my armpits, you probably see sweat coming off my arms. So I want to say thank you guys. It was awesome getting a chance to talk to you. This is always so much fun. And once again, please take a look at some of the classes in the blackbusinessschool.com. If you see anything that you like and you want to support us, just sign up for a class. It's good information, and I think it'll make your life better. In fact, we guarantee it. If you don't like a class or you sign up for something and you're not satisfied, we have a 100% no questions asked money back guarantee. So there you go. So it's totally risk free in that regard. So all right, guys. Well, you take care, and it's great to see you. And Merry Christmas. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.